Maya did not cut off her friends suddenly. That is just what everyone said afterward. To them, it looked like one random Tuesday night. Maya stared at an 11-year group chat called Chaos Goblins, saw the message Brunch Sunday and chose emotional arson. No warning, no explanation, no dramatic paragraph, just one quiet tap, leave group. And within 6 minutes, the investigation began. Wow, she changed. She thinks she's better than us now. She's in her healing era and making it everyone's problem. Someone check if she joined Pilates. But Maya had not left in 6 minutes. She had been leaving for years. The button was sudden. The decision was not. That is what people misunderstand about long-term friendship breakups. The final cutoff looks cold from the outside because nobody saw the hundreds of tiny moments where the relationship quietly cracked. They saw the door close. They did not hear the house shifting for years before it collapsed. Maya met her friend group in college, back when everyone's personality was caffeine anxiety and pretending instant noodles were a financial strategy. They were not bad people. That matters. They had history, real history, late-night drives, panic attacks survived together, birthdays, breakups. Inside jokes so specific they basically required a password. And Maya had a role. She was the reliable one, the therapist friend, the peacekeeper, the designated it's fine machine. If someone got dumped, they called Maya. If someone spiraled, they called Maya. If someone needed to move apartments, they called Maya, even though Maya owned one weak lamp and a compact car with the emotional capacity of a shoebox. For years, Maya loved being needed, until being needed started feeling a lot like being used. But she ignored that feeling, because old friendships come with a strange emotional contract. Nobody signs it, but somehow everyone follows it. You stay loyal because of history. You laugh at the jokes, even when they start feeling like little insults wearing party hats. You forgive things because that's just how they are. And honestly, that's just how they are has protected more bad behavior than any legal team in human history. The first crack was small. Maya had just got promoted at work. Not by a yacht promoted. Not name a hospital wing after herself promoted. But it mattered to her. She told the group over dinner. For half a second, everyone cheered. Then Tessa laughed and said, "Look at you, becoming a corporate girly. Remember when you cried because your printer jammed?" Everyone laughed. Maya laughed too. Because that is what you do when the joke is technically about you, but you do not want to become the person who says, "Actually, that hurt my feelings," while everyone is eating tacos. So she smiled. But inside, something tightened. Not because one joke ends a friendship. One joke rarely does. It was because the joke reminded her of something she had been noticing for months. They only knew how to love the old version of her. The messy one, the insecure one, the always available one. The one who made everyone else feel stable by staying slightly broken. And when Maya started changing, the group did not celebrate the change. They turned it into a bit. That is where many friendship breakups begin. Not with betrayal, not with screaming. Not with one person stealing another person's boyfriend, although the group chat documentaries on that are incredible. They begin with an identity gap. You grow, but the relationship has no room for your growth. You start healing, and suddenly the same joke does not feel funny. You start setting boundaries, and suddenly everyone says you have an attitude. You start needing less chaos, and suddenly people call you boring. Which is rich because half the people calling you boring still consider, "Let's drink too much and talk about our exes," a personality. Maya tried to adapt quietly. She stopped sharing good news, not because she had no good news, because every time she shared something good, someone made it weird. If she talked about therapy, Jordan joked that she was paying someone to listen to her overthink. If she said she was saving money, Chris said, "Wow, okay, finance influencer." If she said she was tired and wanted to stay in, Tessa said, "You used to be fun." That sentence landed harder than it should have. You used to be fun, translation. You used to ignore yourself for our convenience. But Maya did not say that. She said, "Haha, I know, I'm just old now," which is basically millennial for, "I am emotionally exhausted and do not want to explain my nervous system at this table." Then came the silent tolerance phase. This is the part nobody sees. It is when someone is still technically in the friendship, but emotionally they have started packing boxes. They reply slower. They make excuses. They feel dread before hanging out. They feel relief when plans get canceled. And not normal relief like, "Great, I can wear sweatpants." A deeper relief. The kind where your whole body says, "Thank you. I was about to perform a personality I retired 3 years ago." Maya began noticing her body before she trusted her thoughts. Her stomach tightened when the group chat lit up. Her shoulders rose when someone said, "We need to talk." Her brain started treating brunch like a suspicious email from the IRS subject line. Casual hangout, emotional attachment, enormous. Sometimes your body admits the truth before your loyalty does. Your mind says, "They're my friends." Your body says, "Then why are we bracing for impact?" And this is where guilt gets complicated, because Maya did love them. That is the confusing part. She loved the old nights. She loved the dumb jokes. She loved the way Jordan once drove across town when she had a panic attack. She loved Chris, even though Chris had the text response time of a medieval messenger pigeon. These people were not cartoon villains. That made leaving harder. Because when you try to leave a relationship, your brain does something deeply inconvenient. It starts playing the highlight reel. not the part where you felt dismissed, not the part where you went home drained. Not the part where you said no worries while every organ in your body filed a formal complaint. No, it plays the birthday cake, the road trip, the night everyone laughed so hard someone almost committed a traffic violation, and suddenly you think maybe I'm being dramatic. This is why people stay too long. They confuse good memories with a good present. A friendship can have been real and still no longer be right. A friendship can have saved you at 22 and suffocated you at 31. Both can be true. Then came what the internet might call the loud cracking moment. Quiet quitting is when you emotionally check out but keep showing up. Loud cracking is when the shell finally breaks. It is the moment a person stops swallowing the truth just to keep everyone else comfortable. For Maya, it happened on a Sunday. The group had planned brunch. Maya said she could come for an hour, but she had to leave early because she had a deadline and needed the afternoon to rest. Simple, normal, reasonable. A boundary so basic it should come with free shipping. But when she stood up to leave, Tessa rolled her eyes and said, "There she goes again. Schedule queen, must be exhausting being this important." Everyone laughed, not cruelly exactly, but comfortably, too comfortably. Maya paused. For the first time, she did not laugh with them. She looked at Tessa and said, "I know you mean it as a joke, but I don't like being mocked every time I take care of myself." The table went quiet. The kind of quiet where every fork becomes a witness. Jordan said, "Whoa, it's not that deep." And there it was, the phrase that has ended more emotional honesty than any weapon ever invented. It's not that deep. But it was deep not because of the joke, because of the pattern. Maya finally saw it clearly. Every time she named a hurt, they made her prove the hurt deserved to exist. Every time she set a boundary, they treated it like an accusation. Every time she changed, they pulled out an older version of her and asked why she could not fit back inside it. So Maya did something strange. She did not explain more. She did not present a PowerPoint titled, "Evidence that I have been slowly dying inside this friendship dynamic." Although, to be fair, the deck would have had excellent transitions. She simply said, "I'm going to go," and she left. That night, her phone lit up. Jordan texted, "Are you okay?" Tessa texted, "I feel like you took that really personally." Chris texted, "Wait, what happened?" "I was in the bathroom." Maya stared at the messages. She wanted to explain. That had always been her role. Explain the feelings, soften the conflict, translate everyone's behavior into something less painful, make the room comfortable again, even if she had to disappear inside herself to do it. But something in her was tired, not angry, tired. A kind of tired sleep does not fix. She realized that if she sent the paragraph, it would become a courtroom. They would debate her tone. They would request examples. They would explain their intent. They would remind her of everything they had done for her. And maybe years ago she would have participated, but not this time. Because sometimes people do not cut you off because they cannot communicate. Sometimes they cut you off because they have communicated in 100 smaller ways and nobody listened. That is the part the person being left often does not see. To them, the final boundary feels sudden. To the person setting it, the final boundary is just the first one they stopped apologizing for. Maya did not block everyone that night. This was not a movie where she walked into the rain and deleted her entire digital existence while indie music played. She just stopped performing closeness. She replied less. She declined invitations. She stopped offering emotional labor on demand. She muted the group chat. And then one Tuesday, after weeks of feeling her stomach drop every time the chat lit up, she left. No speech. No manifesto, just exit. And then came the guilt, because guilt does not care that you made the right choice. Guilt shows up anyway, wearing sweatpants, holding old memories, saying, "But remember when they were there for you." Yes, you can remember, you can be grateful, and you can still leave. That is the sentence many people need permission to believe. You can love what a friendship was and still admit what it has become. You can miss someone and not want access to them. You can grieve people without reopening the door. Guilt is not always proof that you did something wrong. Sometimes guilt is the withdrawal symptom of no longer abandoning yourself, and that feels awful at first. Because if your whole identity was built around being easy to love, then having boundaries will feel like becoming difficult. But maybe you were never difficult. Maybe you were just finally specific. There is a difference. Now here is the nuance no one on the internet likes, because nuance ruins a perfectly good comment war. Not every cutoff is healthy. Sometimes people disappear because they are scared of uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes silence becomes punishment. Sometimes protecting my peace is just avoidance, wearing a cute outfit and carrying a Stanley Cup. We have to be honest about that. If someone has never harmed you and you ghost them because one conversation feels awkward, that may not be boundaries. That may be emotional dodgeball. But if you have tried to speak and every attempt was minimized, if you have adjusted yourself for years, if the friendship only works when you are smaller, quieter, less honest, less alive, then leaving may not be cruelty, it may be clarity. And clarity often looks cold to people who benefited from your confusion. That is why the phrase, "they cut me off out of nowhere," is rarely the full story. Sometimes it means, "I did not notice they were unhappy." Sometimes it means, "I noticed, but I assumed they would keep tolerating it." Sometimes it means I like the version of them that never said no and I am upset that version is gone. Maya did change. Everyone was right about that. She changed from someone who laughed to stay safe into someone who could survive being misunderstood. She changed from the therapist friend into a person with a life. Tragic, devastating. Someone alert the brunch committee. Months later, Maya still missed them sometimes. A song from college would play. A meme only they would understand would appear. Her chest would ache, but the ache did not mean she made the wrong choice. It meant the friendship mattered. Endings hurt more when something was real. And maybe that is the most mature way to understand old friendships. Not all endings need a villain. Sometimes there is no monster. There is just a person who grew, a group that stayed the same, and a relationship that could not stretch far enough to hold both versions. The old Maya belonged there, the new Maya did not. And that is not betrayal, that is evolution. So if you have been feeling guilty because you cut off an old friend, left a group chat, or stopped forcing yourself into rooms where your nervous system kept whispering, please not again. Maybe you are not heartless. Maybe you are not toxic. Maybe you are not acting brand new. Maybe you are just finally listening to the parts of yourself that had been begging for honesty. Ask yourself one thing. Did you leave because one thing happened? Or did one thing finally make everything obvious? Because most people do not leave long-term friendships suddenly. They leave after years of laughing at jokes that hurt. After years of being the bigger person until they became emotionally microscopic. After years of confusing loyalty with self-abandonment. After years of hoping the people who knew them longest would eventually notice who they had become. And when they finally leave, everyone hears the crack. But nobody remembers ignoring the pressure. So no, Maya did not cut them off suddenly. She stayed until staying started to feel like lying. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop auditioning for belonging in a room that only claps for the old you. If this hit a little too accurately, comment this. I wasn't sudden. I was tired. And if you have ever been called cold for finally choosing peace, remember this. The people who are shocked by your boundary may have gotten very comfortable with your silence.